let's say someone in a larger body goes to an appointment and, is complaining of symptoms that we're talking about. It could be something like anxiety. It could be something that's more of a sign, like a rash or something like that, a combination of signs and symptoms. And the doctor insists on only talking about weight loss and weight loss prescriptions. What kind of advice would you give to a patient in that scenario?
Yeah. And I just want to really feel the challenge there, because I think there are more and more people who stop going and seeking support because they don't want to hear that same diatribe. And that becomes really difficult because people aren't getting the help that they need for other things that could be contributing factors, that could be completely other than. So I think that it really depends on the individual and what they are experiencing in their body and in their embodiment, and how they go in and recognize what it is that they're asking for. So being able to speak up and say, this is what I'm working on. I know you're going to say this to me. This is what I'm here for. I'd prefer if we focused on this aspect and issue that I'm bringing forward to you today, and continually bringing it back and recognizing that may be hard as hell to continually say, I know we spoke about this and I'm asking that we focus on this rash. I am working on these things. It's not what I'm here for. Instead of the feeling of being gaslit that you're not being heard. It's hardcore, but I think it is what we have to do and how we have to really speak up for ourselves. And walking out of that appointment may feel frustrating, but at least you did good by yourself in whatever way you can. And again, the question you're asking, Michelle, is so complicated,
so
and
nuanced.
It's going to be really different for each individual. And it may also be bringing somebody with you to the appointment for your rash or your migraines, and being able to say what that is that you're asking for, and then have the other person say, hey, I know that they said that they want to focus on. We're already working on that. So really, let's focus on this because that's why we came here. Have an advocate with you. I know even if we go back to the situation with my late husband, Disamu, there were times when I wanted the doctor to speak to him. He was perfectly capable of speaking to them. And there were other times where he would say, Andrea's going to be my eyes and ears today. I can't really, I'm a little foggy brained because of the chemo or the radiation or whatever it was. So bring somebody with you. It is totally okay to not have to enter those situations alone.
I think having an advocate's really, really helpful for some people. And then again, if you feel emboldened yourself, to anyone listening, to go into those appointments and advocate for yourself, that's amazing too. And we'll give you some tools on how to prepare that. I think that from an emotional standpoint, it is completely heartbreaking to be asking someone for help in a vulnerable situation and to be met with dismissal and gaslighting, especially to be judged for your wholeness and who you are as a person and your worthiness of being helped based on external factors. I know it can be legitimately extremely destabilizing for people. And I personally have been in that situation so many times when I grew up occupying a larger body and had doctors write me off, treat me differently. And as a young person, it was really, quite challenging, I would say. And I also want people to, from an expectations perspective, understand that this may be the case, but not anticipate it, and not, necessarily put yourself into that fight or flight mode going into the appointment.
Totally.
And kind of removing your identity and who you are from the reaction that you're getting, knowing that it is a possibility, but that you're walking out of the appointment the same amazing person you were when you were walking into the appointment. And if you need to do something really soothing after, that's totally fine. But I would say the strategy of going in with expectation, but not anticipation that something will happen, but at the possibility, and going in a little bit, vulnerable with this information. But again, understanding this could happen is really important for people. And also just making sure your nervous system, as much as you can, do some beautiful breathing, have a nice bath before or after, anything you need to do to really access, your nice parasympathetic nervous system and really soothe yourself is, as I think, totally, totally helpful too.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the ways that I look at medical gaslighting, which can happen in big ways and little ways. And I have another thing I want to say about bias is that we have to really recognize that whatever happened is not our fault.
Not at all.
And whatever went on in that appointment that made you feel unseen, unheard, is a result of the lack of that therapeutic partnership that we started this conversation with. Those biases can be really overt in ways that we're talking about when it comes to body size and weight. Biases can also happen when we're seeing a provider who thinks through a very specific diagnostic lens, whether they are always looking for adrenal fatigue, always looking for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, always looking for H. pylori. We can find these cracks and crevices in any case that we're looking at. And I know I've been in situations where the biases of the provider made me feel like they were placing a diagnosis on me that wasn't appropriate for me. And then I'm supposed to do some whole protocol that then doesn't make me feel good. And that's another form of medical gaslighting. So I just want to recognize that it occurs in all sorts of ways, that if you leave an appointment feeling like that felt bad, I did not feel seen, I did not feel heard, I did not feel taken care of, that number one, it's not your fault.
Not at all.
Number two, consider what your options are. And we may have options to switch providers. You may not have an option to switch the office that you go to, but you may have an option to switch the provider within that office. And you can do that. And that is something I think we feel like we've been assigned somebody, and that's what we're supposed to do, who we're supposed to see. And it's totally okay to call up an office and say, I met with Dr. So-and-so. It didn't go well for me. Are there any other providers who work with XYZ? They're going to care about your experience and want to hear that. And then you can go into that next appointment and say, I met with Dr. So-and-so. They're perfectly nice, but this is how I felt. I'm looking for a different experience. And so I just want to bring in that point number 2, which is consider your options fully. My number 3 in that healing from medical gaslighting. So number 1, not your fault. Number 2, consider all your options to move forward. Number 3 is that take care, like actually take it. Do the soothing, talk to whoever you need to talk about. This is your opportunity to say, that didn't work for me, and develop your parameters around what you know will work. It's like dating, like you need to find
your person.
the right fit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, or persons.